In a world that glorifies visibility, real power often hides in the shadows. Consider those who have shaped the course of history. What if I told you that some of them didn't achieve their success by being in the spotlight? What if their greatest strength was in being overlooked, in allowing others to underestimate them? The concept of invisibility isn't just a philosophical notion, it's a strategy. It's the art of becoming underestimated and using that to your advantage. This is the core of Machiavelli's power play. A lesson that power isn't always about loud displays, but about knowing when to remain unseen. Machiavelli understood that success often lies in the perception others have of you. He argued that the most effective way to navigate through power struggles wasn't to draw attention to yourself, but rather to become a shadow, always there, but never fully visible. The key to controlling others lies in shaping their perception of you, and one of the most potent methods is to let them believe you are harmless, unimportant, or weak. Think about it. When people underestimate you, they let down their guard. They believe they have the advantage. In their mind, you're not a threat. This moment of complacency is where you strike, with precision, with purpose. They never saw it coming. This invisible strategy isn't about hiding in fear. It's about patience. It's about moving unnoticed, waiting for the perfect moment when your opponents are most vulnerable. Because when they've let their guard down, when they think you're harmless, that's when they're at their weakest. By allowing others to misread your intentions, you create the perfect conditions for success. It's like a chess game where you let your opponent think they're winning, only for you to make the final move and checkmate them when they least expect it. Invisibility, then, is not a weakness. It's a weapon that can turn the tide of power in your favor. Machiavelli's insight is simple but profound. While the world may rush to be seen, the true masters of power understand that silence and invisibility can be far more dangerous. When you're underestimated, you can control the game without anyone ever realizing it. You move in the shadows, quietly positioning yourself for victory. And when the time is right, you reveal your strength in a way no one saw coming. History is filled with figures who used invisibility as a strategic weapon, and their stories hold the key to understanding Machiavelli's approach. These individuals didn't flaunt their power. Instead, they played the long game, moving unnoticed until the right moment to strike. Take the legendary military commander Hannibal. Known for his tactical brilliance during the Second Punic War, Hannibal's greatest strength wasn't in his overwhelming presence, but in his ability to remain unseen, to strike where he was least expected. One of his most famous victories came at the Battle of Cannae, where he outmaneuvered the Roman legions with an audacious plan that left his enemies in shock. Hannibal's success didn't come from sheer force. It came from his ability to manipulate the battlefield, to make the Romans believe he was somewhere he wasn't, and then use that misperception to launch an invisible attack. Similarly, Machiavelli himself, while often seen as a figure of direct political influence, understood the value of remaining in the background. He wasn't an emperor or a general in the traditional sense. Instead, his power was found in his advice, his writings, and his ability to shape the fate of leaders from behind the scenes. It was through the subtlety of his influence that he left a lasting legacy in the political world. He showed that power doesn't always come from sitting at the head of a throne. It can also come from influencing those who sit there. But perhaps the most striking example of the invisible attack is found in the political world of the Medici family during the Italian Renaissance. The Medici didn't rule through obvious force or bloodshed. Instead, they ruled through networks of influence, using subtle tactics to secure power while maintaining the appearance of restraint. Lorenzo de' Medici, known as Lorenzo the Magnificent, didn't boast about his influence over Florence. He knew that real power was in the unseen, a subtle maneuvering of politics, art, and even marriages to secure control without ever stepping into the spotlight. In fact, the Medici family embodied the very principles that Machiavelli would later write about in The Prince. They didn't flaunt their authority. They let others fight their battles, fund their wars, and win their victories, all while quietly controlling the decisions that truly mattered. The true strength of the Medici was that no one ever really understood the depth of their influence. Their ability to remain invisible, to pull the strings of power from behind the curtains, is the epitome of Machiavellian strategy. And then there's Queen Elizabeth I of England. She may have ruled with grace and power, but her true genius lay in her ability to keep her enemies guessing, to keep them unsure of her next move. Elizabeth understood the importance of being underestimated, of never letting others fully grasp her strategy. She played both sides in European politics, aligning with whoever benefited her in the moment, while never fully committing to one side. By doing so, she kept Europe's power players off balance, ensuring that no one could predict her next move. Her enemies thought they had her figured out, but it was precisely their miscalculations that led to her success. These historical examples reveal a profound truth. Power doesn't always need to be loud to be effective. Hannibal, Machiavelli, the Medici, and Elizabeth all understood that the most effective way to dominate the game was to let others underestimate them, to let their opponents believe they were harmless until it was too late. Their success was rooted in their ability to move in silence, to influence without being seen. In each of these cases, their power wasn't derived from force or brute strength. It was found in the subtleties of their actions, in the invisible, attacks that no one saw coming. These figures show us that invisibility is not a form of weakness. It is in fact a deadly form of strength, one that Machiavelli championed throughout his writings. To understand the art of invisibility, we must first dive into human nature. Why do we, as humans, overlook others? And why do we tend to underestimate the quiet and unassuming? The psychology behind this is more profound than it may seem, and it offers a powerful lens through which to view Machiavelli's strategy. Humans are hardwired to focus on the most obvious threats. We're drawn to what we can see, to what's loud, to what demands our attention. This is a survival mechanism. In primitive times, it made sense to pay attention to the largest, most dangerous creatures, the ones that were visible and obvious. But in today's world, this instinct plays out in far subtler ways. We still prioritize the visible over the invisible, often at our own peril. When we perceive someone as weak, unimportant, or inconspicuous, we disregard them. We underestimate them. This cognitive bias is a cornerstone of Machiavelli's concept of power. We make assumptions based on outward appearances, and these assumptions cloud our judgment. The quiet, reserved individual is often seen as harmless, their intentions unclear. This is precisely why they can become so dangerous, because we don't see them coming. Machiavelli understood that people's judgments are shaped by appearances. In his time, a ruler who was too visible, too active in his affairs, could easily become a target. By remaining invisible or underestimated, that ruler could make calculated moves while the world slept, never suspecting a threat until it was too late. The psychology of underestimation works because it exploits this very bias in human nature. Psychologically speaking, when we fail to recognize someone's potential for harm, we let our guard down. We stop analyzing their actions, their motives, their intentions. And in doing so, we open ourselves up to manipulation, to surprise. Invisibility allows someone to move under the radar, to quietly position themselves for power while their adversaries remain oblivious. It's a calculated game of human perception, but there's more to this psychology than just avoiding detection. It's about emotional intelligence, the ability to read a situation, to sense when to be visible and when to disappear into the background. The truly dangerous individuals understand this balance. They know when to make their move, when to retreat, and when to let others believe they're weak when in fact they're anything but. One of the most fascinating aspects of the psychology of invisibility is how it ties into trust. People tend to trust those they perceive as harmless, the ones who don't draw attention to themselves. And in this trust lies a dangerous vulnerability. When others trust you because they think you have no power, they open themselves to manipulation. In this trust, an invisible attacker finds their opportunity. This concept of invisible attack isn't just about outsmarting others. It's about understanding the very dynamics of trust and perception. It's about manipulating how others view you, playing on their biases and their emotional responses to gain an advantage. This is where Machiavelli's teachings on human nature intersect with real-world power dynamics. By exploiting the human tendency to underestimate, you can not only survive but thrive in a world that constantly demands visibility. The art of invisibility, then, isn't about being invisible in a physical sense. It's about controlling how you are perceived. It's about understanding the psychology of your adversaries, their tendencies to trust, to ignore, and to misjudge. There is a form of power that is rarely seen but often most effective: the power of hidden influence. It is the ability to shape events, to manipulate outcomes, without ever stepping into the spotlight. This is the art of working behind the scenes, a strategy that Machiavelli understood well and advocated for in his political writings. The concept of hidden influence is rooted in the idea that the most effective leaders are often those who don't make their actions known. Instead of commanding from the front, they pull the strings from behind, orchestrating events without anyone realizing they're doing so. This method isn't just for the political elite or world leaders. It's a tactic used by anyone who understands the delicate balance of power. Take a moment to think about some of the most influential figures in history who weren't at the forefront of any battle. Consider the role of advisors throughout history, the ones who shaped the decisions of kings, queens, and presidents, yet whose names never made the headlines. These individuals were often more powerful than the rulers themselves, simply because they operated in the background, pulling the levers of influence while remaining unseen. One of the most famous examples of hidden influence comes from the world of politics. Karl Rove, often referred to as the architect of George W. Bush's presidency. Rove didn't make speeches or hold public office. Instead, he operated as a strategist, carefully crafting the political landscape from behind the scenes. His influence was subtle but undeniable. He understood that true power lies not in public gestures, but in quietly maneuvering the pieces of a larger game. Hidden influence is also a cornerstone of corporate power. Consider the role of corporate executives and board members who shape the future of companies without ever making headlines. The public may hear about the CEO's latest decisions, but the real power lies in the boardroom where the most important decisions are made. The quiet behind-the-scenes negotiations, the unpublicized strategies, they are the true driving force behind a company's success or failure. This invisible power is also seen in the world of media and public relations. The public is often at the mercy of the information that's fed to them, yet few people ever realize that much of what they see and hear has been carefully constructed by PR teams and media moguls. The news, entertainment, and political agendas we consume every day are shaped by invisible forces that remain largely unknown to the public eye. In many ways, the true power of hidden influence lies in the ability to control the narrative. When you're behind the scenes, you can shape what others think, feel, and believe without ever appearing to be in control. You can control perceptions, manipulate outcomes, and direct the flow of events, all without stepping into the limelight. 1. Of the most powerful tools behind hidden influence is manipulating perception. By controlling how people view a situation or an individual, you can guide their actions and decisions without them ever realizing they've been influenced. This is particularly powerful in social dynamics. In personal relationships, those who understand the art of hidden influence can subtly guide the decisions and thoughts of others, without ever appearing to be the driving force behind them. They become the unseen hand that shapes others' choices and beliefs. What makes hidden influence so powerful is its subtlety. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't seek recognition. It operates in silence, quietly shifting the course of events while the world remains unaware. And this is where the true genius of Machiavelli's strategy lies, in the understanding that sometimes the best way to wield power is to not wield it at all, not publicly. By remaining behind the scenes, you allow others to act, to make decisions, to believe they are in control, all while you silently steer them in the direction you want. Hidden influence isn't about direct confrontation. It's not about making your presence known. It's about shaping the world from the shadows, about directing events and individuals without ever being seen. The true power lies not in what is done, but in the quiet manipulation of those who don't even realize they're being manipulated. Machiavelli's timeless principles of power and invisibility, though rooted in the Renaissance, have a remarkable relevance in today's fast-paced modern society. In the age of social media, 24/7 news cycles and constant digital surveillance, the ability to remain unseen, to operate without detection, has never been more valuable. Yet, in many ways, we've forgotten the power of being invisible. Instead of seeking to blend in, we now strive for attention. But in this chaotic visibility, we risk losing what Machiavelli so wisely understood, the quiet power of operating in the shadows. In the modern world, the concept of invisibility doesn't mean disappearing entirely from public view. It's about controlling your visibility, when to be seen and when to withdraw, when to act and when to remain silent. In the digital age, we're all accustomed to being constantly observed, whether it's through social media platforms, data tracking, or public scrutiny. Yet, few understand that true influence in this environment doesn't come from being loud and in your face. Rather, it comes from learning when and how to control your presence. Take Silicon Valley, for example. The world's tech giants like Apple, Google, and Facebook don't flaunt their true power. Sure, their brands are ubiquitous, but their real influence often lies in the behind-the-scenes operations. Consider the fact that tech giants shape the flow of information, dictate trends, and even influence political outcomes, yet most of the public can't point to a single individual who wields that power. The people who shape the tech industry aren't those who flaunt their wealth and status in public. They're those who pull the strings from behind the curtain, making decisions that shape our lives without us even knowing it. Corporate leaders, too, understand the subtlety of Machiavellian principles. Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk may be highly visible figures in the public eye, but the real architects of their company's success often work out of sight, shaping the long-term direction of these colossal corporations without drawing attention to themselves. Behind the headlines of billionaire CEOs, there are quiet strategists, board members, and advisors who shape every move, every market shift, and every acquisition. These individuals rarely seek recognition, but they understand that in the game of power, visibility can be a liability. Social dynamics in politics provide another stark example. Modern political leaders are often in the spotlight, constantly battling for attention, but the true players behind the scenes are those who control the flow of information, fund the campaigns, and direct public opinion from the shadows. Political consultants, lobbyists, and even intelligence agencies work tirelessly to shape public perception and push agendas, all without taking the center stage. Their work is rarely seen, but it is often the most impactful. In personal relationships, too, the principles of invisibility can be applied. In a world obsessed with self-promotion, those who understand the art of subtlety can dominate without ever stepping into the spotlight. Take the concept of social currency, the power derived from connections, influence, and reputation. In a world of influencers and celebrities, it's easy to become consumed by the desire for validation and recognition. But the truly powerful individuals are those who don't crave the spotlight. They quietly build relationships, make strategic alliances, and understand the balance of being visible when it serves their purpose and invisible when it does not. The power of invisibility in modern society is rooted in the ability to stay strategically unnoticed. It's about understanding that in an age of endless noise, those who can maintain silence often have the most control. The more you reveal yourself to the world, the more you open yourself up to being judged, manipulated, or exposed. By controlling your image and knowing when to recede into the background, You allow others to underestimate you, to misjudge you, while you operate from a place of calm and control. Machiavelli's advice about avoiding the trap of overt visibility rings truer today than ever before. The constant need to be seen, to be recognized, to be at the forefront is a modern obsession. But, as Machiavelli would argue, in this very obsession lies the opportunity. The more the world clamors for attention, the more powerful it is to remain in the shadows, to influence events without ever being seen. In today's world, the art of invisibility is no longer just about hiding your true intentions. It's about mastering the timing and strategy of your presence. It's about shaping the world around you from the shadows, without ever needing to step into the spotlight. As we've explored the power and allure of invisibility, a question inevitably arises. Is this approach to power and influence morally acceptable? Is it ethical to manipulate events, shape perceptions, and influence decisions without others knowing? The ability to control others from the shadows might sound tempting, but it comes with inherent risks. In the pursuit of Machiavellian invisibility, there is a dark side, a potential for manipulation, deceit, and exploitation that must be carefully considered. The core of this ethical dilemma lies in intentions. Why do we choose to remain invisible? Machiavelli's strategy was deeply rooted in a desire for political stability, for keeping the state intact and preserving order. But in modern society, the motives behind invisible influence aren't always as noble. The temptation to manipulate others for personal gain, power, or revenge is a constant threat. Invisibility becomes not just a tool for self-preservation or societal good, but also a weapon in the hands of those seeking to deceive, control, and exploit. Take corporate deception as an example. Large companies wield immense power, often using behind-the-scenes tactics to shape public opinion, manipulate markets, and sway political agendas. They might operate invisibly to protect their interests, ensuring that their brand image remains untarnished while they make morally questionable decisions out of public view. This hidden influence can be dangerous, especially when corporations hide harmful practices or mislead consumers, all while maintaining a facade of benevolence. One striking example is big tobacco. For decades, the tobacco industry used invisibility to their advantage, hiding the dangers of smoking from the public eye. Through lobbyists, misleading research, and secretive campaigns, they influenced public perception, ensuring that the truth about the dangers of tobacco remained hidden for years. The results were catastrophic. Millions of lives were affected, all because powerful forces operated from the shadows, manipulating reality to serve their own interests. Similarly, in the world of politics, the use of hidden influence can create a dangerous game of puppet masters and puppets. When political leaders or groups manipulate public opinion, spread disinformation, or control the flow of information, they create a system where the truth is obscured and individuals are unable to make informed decisions. This not only undermines democracy, but can lead to a toxic environment of mistrust and societal division. The strategic use of invisibility in these contexts isn't about protecting the public good. It's about maintaining power at all costs. This brings us to the question of ethics in personal relationships. When we talk about invisibility in our personal lives, we must ask, are we using subtle influence for good or for manipulation? Is it right to guide others in ways that serve our own interests, even if they don't realize it? In romantic relationships, friendships, or even business partnerships, there's always a fine line between using influence to help others and using it to control them. Take the world of dating. Imagine someone deliberately using subtle psychological tactics to gain control over their partner. This could be through manipulation, playing on insecurities, or creating an illusion of independence while secretly pulling the strings. While Machiavelli may have seen this as a way to preserve power, in modern times, this can lead to emotional harm and psychological abuse. The ability to manipulate from the shadows in these situations is dangerous, as it erodes trust and creates toxic dynamics that can have long-lasting emotional consequences. The ethical question also extends to surveillance and data collection. In an age where our digital lives are constantly being tracked, analyzed, and sold, the principle of invisibility takes on an entirely new dimension. Companies, governments, and even individuals use invisible means to collect vast amounts of data, often without our knowledge. This covert surveillance can manipulate our behavior, limit our freedoms, and erode our privacy. As much as we may benefit from technological advancements, there is a darker side to the invisible forces that shape our daily lives. So, is invisibility inherently dangerous? The answer is not clear-cut. Like any form of power, it depends on how it is used. Invisibility can be a force for good. It can allow individuals to preserve their privacy, protect their interests, or operate in environments where transparency might be dangerous. However, when used with malicious intent, it can lead to manipulation, exploitation, and an erosion of trust. The ethical dilemma lies in the balance between strategic invisibility for self-preservation or positive change and manipulative invisibility, used for self-interest at the cost of others. When we use invisible influence for personal gain at the expense of others, we risk becoming the very thing Machiavelli warned against: a ruler who controls others through fear, manipulation, and deceit. The decision to remain invisible must be weighed carefully. It's not just about the pursuit of power. It's about understanding the responsibility that comes with it. Invisibility in itself is neither good nor bad. It's how it's wielded that defines its morality. As we draw to a close, we're left with a powerful realization: the unseen hand, the quiet force that operates from the shadows, is often the most potent force in any system. Throughout history, those who have mastered the art of invisibility have been able to shape the world around them in ways that others could never imagine. Whether through subtle influence in politics, business, or personal relationships, the ability to remain unnoticed while controlling outcomes is a skill that has always been coveted by those who seek power. Machiavelli's insights into the nature of power and visibility resonate deeply in our modern world. In a time when attention is the most valuable currency, the temptation to constantly be seen, to shout louder than everyone else, is overwhelming. Yet, as we've explored, true power doesn't come from being the loudest. It comes from being the most strategic. The power of invisibility lies in knowing when to step into the light and when to fade into the shadows, manipulating events and perceptions without anyone ever realizing it. But with great power comes great responsibility. The art of invisibility is not just about achieving personal success or domination. It's about understanding the consequences of using such a force. The ethics of invisibility, as we've discussed, are complex. Used with integrity, it can preserve freedom, protect privacy, and guide others toward a common good. But when used for selfish gain or manipulation, it can destroy relationships, erode trust, and destabilize entire systems. So, where does that leave us? Should we strive for invisibility in our own lives, learning from Machiavelli's teachings? The answer, perhaps, lies in balance. In a world that demands constant visibility, there's undeniable power in knowing when to withdraw, when to observe, and when to act from the shadows. Invisibility, after all, isn't about disappearing. It's about controlling the narrative from a place of quiet power, where others are none the wiser. As you reflect on this concept of invisibility, ask yourself, where in your life can you implement this strategy? Where can you take a step back, withdraw from the spotlight, and let others reveal their true intentions while you quietly shape the direction of events? The power of the unseen hand is not just for politicians or business magnates. It's for anyone who understands the quiet force of influence. And that includes you. If you found this exploration into Machiavelli's art of invisibility thought-provoking, consider subscribing to this channel for more deep dives into the psychology of power, influence, and human behavior. Join us in exploring the unseen forces that shape our world, and let's continue the conversation about how we can harness these powerful principles to navigate the complexities of life. Don't forget to leave your thoughts and comments below. What do you think of the idea of invisibility? Is it a tool for good or a dangerous game? I'd love to hear your insights.